Hey, today I'm gonna make the last set of cards from the Party Time collection, which are a bigger set of cards, as in each card is 5 by 7. Although the number of cards we're gonna make is fewer, only 4. We are also going to make the envelopes out of papers that are included in the kit. If you need help finding the supplies for this project or need help with instructions, you can get in touch with me or order from my website. So let's jump into this. I have a set of videos where I made the Party Time smaller cards that come in a 12 pack. And today I'm going to make this set. Everything you need for the cards is included in the kit, except for your adhesive and tools. And there's really just one tool you have to have, which is the envelope maker, so you can make the envelopes. I also have my scissors out because we're going to use foam tape as one of our adhesives. If you would rather use foam squares, you can definitely do that, and then you would not need to have the scissors. And I also have 2 types of adhesive in my tape runners. So I've got 2 tape runners, my repositionable that we'll use for most things on the cards themselves, and my maximum strength tape, which we will use for holding the envelopes together. I'm going to show you the envelopes first. That is the part that takes the longest from this kit. And for most people, I feel like this is the most difficult part. If you've already used the envelope maker a lot, maybe this will be the easy part. But for most people who are kind of unfamiliar with it, it takes a little bit of time to figure out how things work. So each of these papers is already cut to the right size that you need for the 5 by 7 envelopes we're going to make. And if you are cutting your own papers, you can see what size you need here on the guide. For a 5 by 7 card, we want a 9 5/8 square paper, so 9 5/8 by 9 5/8. And we're going to line up to punch this paper, well, not punch, but to score each paper at 4 1/8. So that's where I've set my little flag today, so I know to just line up my papers there all the time. Since you don't have to do any cutting, you can just get to work on scoring your envelopes. And each paper has a plain colored side and a mild print in the monochromatic. You can decide whether you want the print or the solid paper to be the inside or outside of your card. Each one, or sorry, the inside or outside of your envelope. Each one is going to be scored and folded the same. So we just line up at 4 1/8, so I've got my marker. Score 2 times, rotate halfway around, and then do it again. There are 2, well, maybe 3 mistakes I see people make. If you have the wrong size paper, obviously that's going to cause a problem. Or if you line up your paper at the wrong spot to score, you're not going to end up with an envelope that's quite the right size. But more often, the problems I see people have is related to the rotating when you're scoring. So maybe you'll do your first score marks just fine, and then instead of rotating your paper halfway around, people rotate just 1/4 way around, 1 turn instead of 2. And if you do that and you see you've already got a score line, and then you go to score it again, you're gonna have some confusion about where to actually fold your card. So when you rotate, make sure you go halfway around. That is probably the most common error I see people make when they are new to this tool. The other thing I see people make, the other error, is flipping your paper over. It happens occasionally, and sometimes I'm like, how did that happen? And then I realize what happened. So you have to score on the same side of your paper, lining up at this spot each time. You can't score on one side and then flip it over to score on the other side. So if there is a side of your paper that is a lot easier to see your score lines, you might want to just start on that side to begin with, because some patterns do make it a little harder to see the score lines. Once your paper is scored, however, you can fold from either direction. Okay, so that's all the scoring we're going to do. Put my little stylus away and fold my arms down. There are still a few things we're going to do with this. We're going to punch the notches out of the corners where these meet. The little X marks the spot spaces, and then also punch the outer corners to be rounded. And that's just kind of the finishing touches on the envelopes. And I will turn this one over so you can see the score lines a little better. So for the straight side, you want to line it up so the two little feet are just right on the outside of your score marks. And there's a little line that it should be centered in between those. And then you punch out that notch and do it on each side. And for this one, it does not matter which side of your paper you punch on. This piece would punch out the same notch regardless. For people who are new to this tool or who haven't used it for a long time, I always recommend starting with some scratch paper and making a couple envelopes first, just so you can kind of get into the groove of how to use this. Once you're done with all your punches, it should look something like this, where you've got notches on all of the straight sides of the paper, which will help your envelope fold nicely, and then your rounded corners on the outside. And the rounded corners are optional. If you want to leave those with the regular paper edge, that would be no problem. We're just going to do the same thing on the other three envelopes. What we're going to do with the envelopes is fold in all of what were the corners of the paper and are now going to become the sides of the envelope. And I'm going to fold the decorative part to the inside on all my envelopes, but you could definitely do this the other way. And I'm going to leave the top flap open, not tape that down. And I'm just going to tape at these places where the two pieces overlap. I don't want to tape all the way along my long piece to the point where this is going to stick down to the inside of the envelope, because obviously you don't want that to happen, so your envelope will hold a card. So I like to do this part first. Make sure I get my tape just on the flap, and then I can add a little bit also on this one, but trying not to get too close to the corner where it's going to touch the inside of the paper. So I'm just double checking I didn't get any adhesive where I didn't want it. And that that envelope is good to go. I'm going to do the same thing on my other three. Okay, so we've got our 4 envelopes all in different colors up there ready to go when our cards are done, and the rest of this kit goes together so fast. There are some instructions as far as which pieces go together, so you can see which card and which card pieces and which like sayings or whatever go together. And then you can definitely mix and match your cards and envelopes. You can also mix and match your decorative pieces from your cards a little bit, although some pieces just don't fit very nicely together. So that's kind of up to you how you want to put some things together, and if you want to get a little bit creative. So this card is Happy Happy Birthday on the background of a cake. We've got some birthday candles. We've got the love, joy, and laughter. And then we've got hooray as well. So let's put together a couple of these and then we'll finish the others. And like I said, this part goes together real quick and easy. And I'll show you what the instructions look like so you can see that too. For the smaller kits, the instructions are printed and included inside the boxes. But for this kit, the instructions of which pieces go together are actually printed on the back of your packaging. So each set of pieces comes in one of the little sleeves, and there's a large sleeve that goes over the whole thing. And here are your instructions. It's pretty self-explanatory, so there's not a lot of like, do this, do that. They just show a picture of which pieces go together. Let's do this happy birthday card first. I'm going to use my repositionable adhesive. And you could use really any of your tape runner adhesives here, or photo tape if you'd rather. And that's going to go straight down on the card, and then I'm going to use the foam tape on all of these pieces to make them stand up a little bit. So the foam tape is very similar to foam squares, except it comes in a big roll and then you cut it to the size that you want to use. So it's kind of nice if you want to just cut a little sliver, or if you have a big piece of something and want to pop that up with a larger strip. For these ones, I'm just going to put a little bit of the foam on the outsides of the happy pieces, and then I'll do a little bit more on the birthday piece that's a little longer. If you do have your foam squares instead of a roll of foam tape, you might have to cut even the small one down a little bit to fit on this smallest one. There are some spaces where a full small square would fit, but some of the places you might want to put foam will be a little too thin for even those smallest squares. And I'm going to put a little bit just in the middle as well, since this piece is longer and I don't want it to get squished down too much. So there is a cute and easy card. And if you're watching this pretty soon after I've posted the video, you'll see that the Creative Memories sale section includes everything from the Party Time collection. All of the card kits, all of the stickers and paper, everything that is still available from this kit or from this collection. So instead of paying $22 for this whole set, you'll actually just pay $18 right now. And that sale is good while supplies last, or about until the end of the month of August. So we've got one card finished. Got our second card here ready to go. And I'm going to kind of do this similar. I just put down some tape runner on the back of the background piece. Adhere it straight to the card base. And then I'm going to do foam on both of the other pieces that sit above it. I'm going to do slightly larger foam pieces. I don't feel like I need to cover the whole thing back here, but if that's making you uncomfortable, you definitely could put more on. And the foam squares would be just fine on these larger pieces. You're not going to have any problem. You'll actually probably want to use some of the larger foam squares that give you just a little more stability across your pieces. I mentioned this in the other videos where we made our other sets of party time cards, but when you use the foam squares, occasionally the post office will come back to you and say you need to pay additional postage, because the added dimension of the foam makes your card not machinable, meaning somebody's going to have to hand process that piece of mail. But usually I feel like with just foam squares, that's not a problem. And where I more often have a problem is where I use gems and other things that are more rigid and kind of stand up more but can't squish down at all. Okay, we're just going to do basically the same thing on the other two cards. Tape runner to stick down our background piece. And this is one where you could be a little more flexible about where your pieces go. The pieces could go the other direction if you wanted a landscape card. But the original design is for a portrait up and down kind of card. If you want to get a little more decorative with these cards, you could also buy a set of the Party Time stickers, which don't come with the card kit, but are going to have the same kind of designs and colors and same style of artwork. And you could definitely add some more with that, or you could punch out some borders and other shapes to go along with these and kind of jazz up your cards a little bit more. And then last card is this hooray with the candles. And you could do it hooray on top or bottom. Again, if you really liked it better in a portrait style, you could do that. But the pieces are designed to kind of go landscape. And with this one, I'll just do this larger background straight down, and then I'll make my, I guess it doesn't matter which way I would have put this one on, but I will put my little purple oval up on some foam in the center, and then some foam for the other pieces as well. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just do the other ones straight down as well, since this is already popped up. I'll think about that for a sec. Let's just get centered in here. And I think it would look fine portrait, although the design here is kind of like a little heavier on the dots on one side, which indicates probably one side is the bottom. I am going to need a little bit of foam, but I'm going to use tape runner to attach those straight to the purple part in the middle. And then just some foam on the bottom here where they're going to hang over on the candles. So hooray will get attached to purple. And my cards are maybe not exactly what the original designs looked like. I'm not being super careful about following the instructions. But I'm okay with that. But you can always get a little creative with your pieces. You could certainly mix and match which pieces go with which cards. They do not have to be exactly what the original design says. So if you wanted hooray to go with cupcakes, if you wanted hooray to go on the green card, there's no reason you couldn't have done that instead. Okay, and that is everything. So the cards themselves, super fast and easy. The more effort part of this kit is definitely putting together your envelopes. So it's a fun thing to learn, a fun tool to have. This is still available, but it's kind of while supplies last at this point. So if you're watching this much later, some of these tools and this card kit may not be available anymore. You can order supplies from my website here or get in touch with me. And if you live locally in the Kaysville area around here in Utah, I'd love to have you come join us in person sometime.